I always say that if they ever recorded what is said on the headsets, that you could make a lot of money. Because, yeah, and back then too, Coach Meyer and I used to go at it. But I think the thing that I really respected about Coach and he respected about me was that he would challenge me, and I would go right back at him because I felt strong about what we did, you know. And as long as you were strong about it, then you respected that. You know, now you better be right. Well, it's the same thing now. You know, and I do that the same thing is like I challenge guys. I challenge them about their players. I challenge them about scheme. I challenge them about their technique. And if guys don't feel really confident coming back at you saying, no, we're going to do this. That's what you want as a coach. You know, you call a play and you're like, this play's not going to work. You know, and they all come back, yeah, it is. Okay, good. Well, then let's see. And that's kind of what you're looking for. But as the head coach, you constantly have to challenge these guys. And then you also find out what they like, what they feel confident their players in. So, yeah, it's a lot of back and forth, but most of that conversation happens during the week when we're on the board, on the film, put the game plan together. Because, you know, we only have a certain amount of calls, let's just call it on 3rd and 1. So, you know, he's picking 1 or 3, and we've all said that these are good. And I think that's a part of the offensive staff too, that, and same thing on defense, is that if we've all put it on the board, we feel good about it, we've made a big check mark, then when it's called in the game, we all got to get behind it. And it's the same thing on Doe. I think you take what you see in practice and you try to project the best you can, and that's the thing about first games is you make a lot of assumptions. You're assuming it's going to look a certain way in the game. Some certain assumptions are going to be right, other assumptions are going to be wrong. That's the job of coaching, and it's that, you know, experience of seeing it and learning. And then you also try not to label, because you see somebody, you say, well, he's like him. Well, not really. He may have some characteristics like that player, but he's his own player. So there's this, you know, again, balance of trying to figure out, is this what you can predict and project's going to happen, or are these their own set of guys that are going to have their own experience? And so that just comes down with experience. You got to trust your coaching, and make sure that their minds are in the right spot and focused on what really matters. We know that this week it's going to come down to avoiding distractions. There'll be a lot of distractions this week. It always happens. It's very, very predictable. And so we have to make sure that we're avoiding distractions better than Texas. Utmost respect for the Manning family. Starting with Archie, the dad, I think he's just an unbelievable ambassador for the game, and Eli and Peyton. I can't say enough about, you know, who they are as, again, ambassadors of the game, gentlemen, and obviously great players. And so, and certainly Arch is a tremendous player as well. But really, that has nothing to do with this game and you know, playing Texas. You know, he's an excellent player. But, you know, those guys, you know, they stayed out of it for the most part because they want him to just, you know, write his own story. And I got a lot of respect for how they've handled that. And he's got a great future ahead of him, and he's a great player. So it's a great challenge for us. But again, this is more about, you know, our preparation and doing what we can go win the game and then go from there. We know we have a long season ahead of us, and we know we're going to get great information coming out of this game. But like the number one goal is to win the game, win the game, win the game. So what do we need to do to win the game? You know, we start listing those things, and then build from there based on what we've seen. You don't know which way the game's going to go. You know, it could be close. We find ourselves out ahead. We find ourselves behind. We have to have, you know, a game plan to be able to respond to those things. So to say, you know, we're going to play it close to the vest, no, we're not going to do that. To say we're going to be wide open and chucking it 60 times, no, we're not going to do that. It'll be somewhere in between based on what we're seeing, the success we're having, and then where we are in the game in terms of score.
What is your expectation of him going forward in that way?
I think for every quarterback, they have to find their own voice and lead. You know, we talk about how do you lead, and you've heard me say this before. It's about who you are as a person, your character. I think he has high character. His connection, I think he connects well. You know, he's found his voice, I believe, here in preseason. And then his competency is how well he's going to play in the game. And if you can do all those things, you can lead. And, you know, we challenged him to have command of that huddle, have command of the game plan, and then make great decisions. And obviously play well on 3rd down, red zone in 2 minutes. So now it's time to go put it on the field. But you're definitely seeing a lot of changes with him and a lot of growth. I think the first thing is you can't have expectations. You know, and I think I probably, you know, wasn't good in that area because, you know, I was like, all right, I'm going to go throw 4 touchdowns and blow this thing out. And the minute something didn't go well, you know, you can feel yourself, all right, I'm not fulfilling the expectation of what I thought going into it. And what you can't do in week 1 is have these crazy expectations other than win the game. Take care of the ball, win the game. If you need to throw it away, throw it away. Don't worry about anything else other than win the game. Win the game, it's gonna be a heck of a night. So that's the most important thing, and that's the job of the quarterback. So that'll be my message to him, and then ultimately, you gotta go trust your training. You know, you can't play it close. You know, when it's time to let it rip, you gotta let this thing rip, and you'll know when it's right. Early, and we need them loud. You know, you think back on, you know, the Indiana game, when Indiana had to go to a silent cadence and they couldn't clap anymore. That was a huge deal for our defense. And it's gonna be the same way on Saturday, if the fans are in there early and they're loud when they have the ball. Not when we have the ball. We have the ball, they can be quiet. But when they have the ball, we need them as loud as they possibly can to make this the most hostile environment in the country. And we all know it is. So, we need everyone to do their job.